The lack of discipline is one of the most common and most private forms of self-betrayal. We make a promise to our future self, and then, in the critical moment of action, we break it. We set the alarm, but we hit the snooze, sinking back into the warmth, not out of a need for rest, but out of a deep refusal to meet the day. We buy the gym membership, flush with optimism, but we do not go. We sit down to write the book, to build the business, to have the difficult conversation, but we stare at a blank page, suddenly overcome with an irresistible urge to check our email, to clean the kitchen, to do anything but the thing we know we must do. We promise ourselves this is the last time, but it isn't. We call this weakness. We call it laziness. We call it a failure of willpower. We look at others who seem to move through their lives with effortless momentum, and we assume they are made of a stronger material. We tell ourselves, are the flawed ones. We are the ones who lack the essential ingredient. But what if this is not a failure of will? What if this failure is not a lack of willpower, but a lack of inner agreement? What if your lack of discipline is actually the symptom of a deep, unseen internal civil war? The psychologist Carl Jung proposed that the psyche is not a single unified entity. It is not one I. It is a vast, complex landscape, populated by many different forces, many different voices. We have the conscious I, the part we call the ego. This is the part of us that makes the resolutions. The ego is the voice that says, I want to be better, healthier, more successful. It is the part that sets the goals, that identifies with the ideal future version of ourselves. It is the architect of the plan. But we also have autonomous complexes. These are splinter psyches. They are knots of emotional energy, fragmented parts of our history that have broken away and taken on a life of their own. These complexes are formed in our past, often in childhood, as adaptations to our environment. They are the parts of us that were wounded, the parts that were shamed, the parts that were frightened. They are the strategies we developed to survive. A complex has its own will, its own memories, its own goals, and its own profound animalistic intelligence. And often, its goals are not your goals. This is the source of all true self-sabotage. This is the root of laziness. The conscious mind, the ego, says, I will wake up at 5 a.m. and write my book. I want to build something. I want to be successful. I want to be seen. But an unconscious complex, perhaps one rooted in a childhood where being visible was dangerous, or where you were shamed by a parent or teacher for showing off, whispers from the dark, no, it is safer to stay hidden. It is safer to remain small. If you are seen, you will be attacked. And so, in the cold, dark morning, when the alarm rings, the conscious mind's willpower is met with a tidal wave of full-body exhaustion. It's not just sleepiness. It is a profound cellular no. A leaden weight presses you into the mattress. You call it not being a morning person, but it is in fact a powerful unconscious act of self-preservation from a part of you that is terrified of the consequences of success. This is not a failure of discipline. This is a conflict of intention. You are not lazy, you are divided. Perhaps you consciously want to leave a relationship you know is wrong for you. You make the plan. You tell your friends. You rehearse the speech. But every time you try, you are paralyzed. Your conscious mind wants freedom. but a deeper part of you, perhaps a complex formed in early life that learned that alone is synonymous with unsafe or unlovable, rises up in panic. This part of you does not care about your long-term happiness. It only cares about avoiding the immediate, terrifying, primal feeling of abandonment. This part of you will do anything to keep you from being alone, even if it means staying in a place of predictable suffering. The weakness you feel is not weakness. It is the profound hidden strength of a terrified part of your own psyche, fighting to keep you safe based on old, outdated information. Let us be even more precise. This internal conflict is not just between two voices. It is often between many. There is the voice of the inner critic. This complex often takes on the voice of a shaman parent or a strict teacher. It tells you, you're not good enough to do that. Who do you think you are? You'll only embarrass yourself. Its goal is to protect you from the humiliation of failure by ensuring you never truly try. Then there is the voice of the rebel or the saboteur. This part of you resents the high-minded goals of the ego. It feels oppressed by all the shoulds and musts. It says, you don't get to tell me what to do. And so, it eats the cake, it skips the workout, it binge watches the show. It seeks a moment of pleasure, a small rebellion to feel a sense of freedom, even if that freedom is ultimately self-destructive. Then there is the terrified child, the part of you that simply wants to avoid all discomfort, all risk, all potential pain. It wants only safety, comfort, and the familiar. This is the chaotic committee meeting happening inside your mind every time you try to make a change. Your ego, the well-meaning but often outvoted chairman, calls for a new direction. But the complexes, the powerful emotional board members, all vote no for their own deeply held hidden reasons. And the result is paralysis. The result is the laziness you despise. Consider the person who wants to start a business. They are brilliant. They have the idea. They make the plan. But they spend months, then years, researching. They are always getting ready to get ready. They organize their desk. They buy a new planner. They read another book. They call it a lack of discipline. But if they looked deeper, they would find a complex. They would find an inner voice that says, if you fail, you will be a humiliation. You will prove your father was right about you. Or, even more terrifying, if you succeed, you will lose everyone you love. You will no longer belong. You will be alone. The lack of discipline is, in fact, a profound act of loyalty to this hidden, unexamined fear. The procrastination is not the problem. It is the solution a part of the psyche has engineered to protect the whole system from a perceived emotional catastrophe. And so, the cycle of self-blame begins. This is the great tragedy. We fail to act. We feel the sting of self-betrayal. We see the gap between who we are and who we want to be. And what do? We attack ourselves. We adopt the voice of an inner drill sergeant. You will do this. You have no excuse. You are lazy. You are worthless. You are weak. We try to use shame, anger, and self-hatred as fuel. We believe that if we can just punish ourselves enough, we will finally change. But this internal tyrant only strengthens the resistance. The part of you that is afraid does not respond to threats. It only retreats further. The part of you that feels unsafe does not need a drill sergeant. It needs a diplomat. The part of you that feels shamed does not need more shame, it needs understanding. When you try to conquer yourself with force, you are deepening the civil war. The resisting part does not surrender. It simply goes deeper. It becomes more cunning. It manifests as sudden migraines, as forgetfulness, as chronic brain fog, as an irresistible urge to clean the entire house when you are supposed to be working on your taxes. This is the cycle of shame. You are not fighting your bad habit, you are fighting yourself. And in a civil war, the nation always loses. The psyche wastes all of its precious energy, simply fighting to hold itself together, leaving nothing left for growth, creativity, or peace. You are left exhausted, fragmented, and still standing in the exact same place, only now you are covered in the wounds of your own self-assault. But what if the solution is not more force? What if the solution is curiosity? What if, instead of trying to kill the part of you that resists, you had the courage to sit down with it and ask it what it's trying to protect? This is the great shift. You stop treating your psyche like a battlefield and start treating it like a council. You stop being a tyrant and you become a leader. True discipline is not the victory of one part of you over another. It is not the domination of the good self over the bad. True discipline is the moment all parts of you finally and willingly agree to walk in the same direction. It is not force. It is harmony. It is integration. This is the work of aligning your will with your true whole identity. It begins with radical self-honesty and a profound act of internal diplomacy. You must listen. When you feel the overwhelming pull of procrastination, do not fight it. Do not flee into distraction. Do not attack yourself. Instead, get quiet. Acknowledge the feeling, give it space, and ask it, what part of me is afraid right now? What is this resistance really trying to save me from? What is the hidden belief that this behavior is protecting? What are you afraid will happen if we actually do this? You might discover it's a part of you that is terrified of failure, or a part that is terrified of success. You might find a part that believes, I do not deserve to be healthy, or if I am powerful, I will be alone, or if I am seen, I will be rejected. You do not kill this part. You integrate it. You acknowledge its fear. You speak to it with respect, as if it is a valued member of your council who is simply working with old information. You say, I understand. I understand you are trying to keep me safe, and I thank you for your service. You have done this job well for a very long time, but we are no longer that child. We are no longer in that old situation. We have new resources now. We have new strength. You give this part of you a new job. You negotiate. I need you to stop pulling the emergency brake. I need you to become my lookout. I need your vigilance not to stop me, but to help me proceed with wisdom. You are no longer a fragmented house, divided against itself. You are building a unified will. This alignment is the source of all flow states. It is the source of effortless action. The people we admire for their iron discipline are rarely the ones fighting themselves the hardest. We see the external action and mistake it for a sign of an internal war they are winning. But the truth is the opposite. They are the ones who are least in conflict. They have, consciously or unconsciously, achieved this inner alignment. Their daily actions are not a struggle. Their daily actions are simply a natural, frictionless expression of their deepest, most unified identity. The person who loves to run does not need discipline to go for a run. It is simply who they are. The person who sees themselves as a writer, as a whole self, writes, "The act is a joy, an expression, not a war. The work is not to build a better whip. The work is not to become a better soldier in your own self-imposed war. The work is to build a better self, a self that is not at war, a self that is whole. You do not lack discipline. You lack alignment. When the inner world finally comes into agreement, when all the parts of you move as one, the outer world will at last come into order. Discipline is not the chain, it is the freedom that comes after. When the inner world aligns, discipline follows.